I have a statement that I have to read out before we start. Ladies and gentlemen, please note this meeting is being audio live streamed and recorded on the Council's website in accordance with the Council's live streaming of open Council meetings policy. The recording will be archived and made available on the Council's website after the meeting. While care is taken to maintain your privacy while in attendance at the Council meeting, please note that your presence in the Council chambers and or your voice may be live streamed and recorded, including any statement made during public question time or consideration of planning matters. All speakers ought to refrain from making any defamatory statements or releasing personal information of another individual without their prior consent. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from defamatory comments, and all liability will rest with the individual making those comments. By remaining in the public gallery, you are deemed to consent to being live streamed and recorded. If any person attending the meeting does not agree to being live streamed or recorded, you may choose to leave the meeting. Okay, thank you. Get started on our meeting. Okay, attendance. We have one apology. The Deputy Mayor is on leave. Table of contents is as is. Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land on which we gather today, and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest from any councillor? No? Confirmation of minutes of the meeting Monday the 23rd of June. Can we have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Adams and Councillor McCullough. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Confirmation of the minutes of the special council meeting on Monday the 7th of July. Councillor Adams and Councillor Archer. All those in favour? All those against? Passed. The date of the next council meeting will be Monday the 18th of August. We have a motion from a councillor regarding the Cleveland improvements to the township of Cleveland, and the officer's recommendation is that council, we've got a choice here, accept Councillor Terrett's motion and bring a further report back to a future council meeting, or or take no further action at this time. So I need a mover and a seconder.
That's my motion.
Yes.
I'd like to move as per the officer's recommendation, that a further report be brought back to council.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Terrett and Councillor McCullough. Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak to your motion?
I think it's a good opportunity as we have a heritage highway which runs through Cleveland. And whilst it's only a small stop, it's sometimes overlooked as an importance in the heritage highway. It's a good opportunity for council to look at Cleveland to see what we could add to the heritage highway. It is quite significant. It was established in 1842 with the Ballface Inn being built in 1838. It was significant for many reasons on the heritage highway, and as much that people used to stop there before they took the dangerous route to go up to Epping Forest, which was renowned for bush rangers. Yet, and it also has a very significant graveyard and church there. And I think this is an opportunity to work with the local community there to say, how can we do something to actually acknowledge both the heritage and the town's importance on the heritage highway. There's an active little group that's down in Cleveland, and I think this is a good opportunity for council to look at it and see what we can do as a council to improve the facilities and also the significance for the tourist area through Cleveland.
Councillor McCullough, did you wish to speak?
No, Mayor, I think that there's a good opportunity as per Councillor Terrett. It's a very high profile site in Cleveland. I'm not sure where that park's come across to us yet, but it does get left off the map a little bit, and if we can improve the township, then that would be a good thing.
Any further discussion, councillor Goss?
Just on the side of the highway, there's about, I don't know, might be 10 or 15 plaques that were supplied by council, and you can't read the plaques anymore. They're, some of them, they're too faded, and so they something that definitely need to be looked at. And they were supplied by council. I can't remember the date, but they definitely are. You cannot read them anymore.
Councillor Brooks?
Just one question, I suppose it goes to the general manager. What can we do on the edge of the highway there? Like, I know it's a state government highway. Are we hamstrung there with what we can do, like close by, or do we have to work the back streets to really make any improvements?
It is a state highway. We would need to, any improvements there or any works on the side of the roads would need to improve the state growth.
Councillor Adams?
Yeah, this was a coach stop, of course, when the horses used to come up from the south, and it's where they changed the horses. A very historical area. Of course, a lot have gone. There was a lot of two-storey buildings through there, and some of us over the years have done work in this area. And I've got family that have come from there originally, so prior to you as well. So yeah, heritage area. I don't know, if there's a group want to do things. Well, I think council should assist, but it's what we can do and what will come out of people discussing it.
Anyone who hasn't spoken? Councillor Terry, do you wish to sum up?
Just very quickly, I think it is an opportunity for us to look at Cleveland. And the highway is significant, and a number of people have also raised with me concerns of the lack of barriers through Cleveland. And there was a recent accident where a trailer came off a vehicle and ran into one of the properties. And at one point there is actually somebody's bedroom less than 2 metres from the highway, and yet there's no barrier on the side. This is an opportunity to work with State Growth to see how we can improve this for people. And the heritage is important, but safety of people is also important. I think it's a good opportunity for us to look into that at the same time.
Okay, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. There's no questions on notice from councillors, so council committees, only the Longford District Committee, we need to move the following, we accept the following minutes of the council committees. Councillor Adams, Councillor Andrews. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The Longford Local District Committee, they've got no motions, sorry, I didn't read that correctly. Okay, information items. We have a recommendation there. Can I have a mover and a seconder, and then you can ask questions about the information items. Councillor Adams and Councillor McCullough. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Andrews.
Can I just ask about your meeting with Inspector Fox, Mayor? Did anything helpful and concrete come out of that?
It was more of an introduction of the new commander, yes, and we did discuss general things such as the vandalism and the issues that we've had happen, but no, it wasn't specifically about anything. Councillor Terrett.
I'd just like to raise the item that was before TASCAT in relation to the flood hazards in Payton Street. Whether there is any precedents now being set for flood-prone land as such, particularly that this was acknowledged within our own plan, and whether this is going to be a concern in other sites where we have raised flooding concerns. I'm just wondering if I could maybe get either from the planner or the general manager in relation to this.
General comment, it is probably concerning the actual decision. We're looking at bringing a report back to a council workshop so the matter can be fully discussed. We're also seeking some advice with regards to the possible legal ramifications of the decision that's been made as well, how that impacts on council as well. So we'll have that available to bring back to council.
A supplementary question from a TASCAT decision made in relation to the Perth, Campbelltown, Ross flood-prone land hazards. Now that those plans have been rejected, where do we go from here in relation to this? Or
Going further, there'll be another report coming back. Reports being prepared with regard to that too, because they have been rejected. But SES has done a significant amount of modelling, so the question will be put to council, I believe, whether council should just accept that modelling rather than spending further funding.
Yes.
Will, with that supplementary SES work, will it still go back out to the community with that after that work has been done?
That may be a question that council wishes to ask of the SES once we provide some further information to council.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions about the information items? Councillor Adams.
Yeah, just got one under gifts and donations. And just there's somebody that it just said representation, senior women's Tasmanian team, senior women's Tasmanian team. I just think it needs a bit more clarity in there of what it's about. Many of the other items have got detail, more detail.
We can add that additional information.
Councillor Andrews.
Just page 23, item 5.3.2, just wanted to ask the Works Manager, it's about repairs to Wellington Street, whether you've had any luck with the yellow line outside JJ's.
Have got a contractor booked. It's just the weather at the moment. We just need a few dry days to be able to get painted up.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We won't start our planning until 5:30, so we'll go to 13.1, Development Services Monthly Report. And the recommendation is that the report be noted. I'll move around a seconder and then you can ask questions. Councillor Terrett and Councillor Adams. Any questions? Page 144 on the computer.
Page number.
Yeah, 144 on the computer. It's not necessarily exactly the same on the paper, I don't know.
On the paper, it's 144.
Oh, yeah. Same page, 144. Any questions from anybody?
44?
Yes?
147.
Yes. No? Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 13.2 is the proposed Evandale Amendment, Community Consultation Update. And the recommendation here is that the Council A discuss the feedback from the community consultation at its workshop on the 1st of September 2025, and B, at the 15th of September 2025 Ordinary Council meeting, consider the consultation feedback report, and 2, consider the application to amend the planning scheme. Councillor Terrett, you're moving that recommendation. And second is Councillor Adams. Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak to
Just
it?
very quickly that I'm pleased that we've had an extension in this one. It's probably one of the most significant developments or rezonings we're going to be having for Evandale, and I think it's a good opportunity. Opens tomorrow, 7 a.m. Hopefully the community takes that up and we get some good feedback from that.
Councillor Adams, you wish to speak to it?
No. Simple.
Any further discussion? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, 14.1 is the local, I haven't jumped anywhere, that's it. 14.1, Local Government Association of Tasmania, their annual general meeting and general meeting. And, down a bit. The recommendation that council in relation to the Local Government Association of Tasmania, general meeting to be held on the 25th of July, delegates Mayor Knowles to vote as follows. So I need to know how you would like to vote. The first motion is around the Better Active Transport Grant Program that Hobart City Council is putting forward.
Can I just move that we vote for that motion?
Yes, we'll go through each motion. It's probably the
Okay,
easiest way.
yeah.
So Councillor Terrett's voting for vote for, yes. And so I have a seconder. Councillor McCullough. Any discussion? No, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And the second one is a rating of new energy developments. And the decision sought, which I think perhaps we should be moving, because we've already put motions forward about this, that members endorse the position that where relevant, Tasmanian councils differentially rate renewable energy facilities in alignment with the Victorian payment in lieu of rates, charges or less. And note that Legat will undertake the work outlined in the attached paper to support this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What's the reasoning for aligning with Victorian payment in lieu of rates?
Because they've already done all the work, and the experts are quite happy to that their work will suit what we want. But of course, Legat will make it a Tasmanian, from a Tasmanian perspective, but they've actually done the work.
So we accept that the experts that have done the work for Victoria have done it so that it suits
Our
Tasmania.
Yeah, our experts are saying that that's a good thing. Does that answer your question?
Move that we vote for
You're
that.
moving that we vote for it, Councillor Terrett and Councillor McCullough. Any further questions? Councillor Goss?
Does anyone know what kind of rate that would be? What is it a reasonable rate we'll expect to get off there? What does this, the Victorian payment, what does it,
I do
Master.
believe that the discussion paper will leave it up to the councils, that each council will work out their own.
just where we, think back to other things we've had, like the airport, they had a charge for lower rates and ended up changing to whatever suited them. So are we getting something here which could potentially give us nothing? That's what I'm concerned about.
It's not Commonwealth land.
So we need probably some more information. So maybe we could ask for more information of LGAT about that.
It'll be under the
Yeah, that's
AAB.
right. Madam Mayor, sorry, my understanding nothing's been finalised yet. They're looking at going down this path, but at the end of the day, it'll be the amount that council wishes to set. So there obviously be numerous criteria that needs to be considered yet, and we would be indicating to the GAT that we wish to be involved in those discussions.
And what about, so that's the same with if it was a pumped hydro or storage, battery storage, they be under this scheme as well, or is it just solar panels?
Solar farms or wind farms.
and everything? Everything.
And it'll be according to the assessed annual value and however we want to differentiate the rate value. Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Yes, this is an issue that's been around a long time, plus the old hydro and assets and towns, and you'll talk to the West Coast Council and they'll tell you that they want to have some rates from the fish farms over there in Macquarie Harbour because trucks use the roads and all that, and so they should get their rate base to do that. And the old Hydro Electric Commission never paid rates to councils for their assets. And so it's been a long issue in Tasmanian process. I think this gives us a good basis for working from here with the local government association to get it up. And there's a fair bit of work being done in Victoria, as you said, Mayor, and I think it'll take us forward. But the detail, we haven't got the detail, so we need to develop that up as we go forward.
Councillor Terrett.
Yeah, this is quite significant for our council, seeing we're having so much renewable energy projects being done. What a lot of people mightn't be aware of, at the moment they're taken as for agricultural rating, even though they could have billions of dollars of capital improvements. And this means that what has occurred in Europe with rating, and when this came up, I had a look at that, and what they work on is the capital improved value of the works. So you still have agricultural usage, sheep going underneath solar panels, for example, but you can also get the capital improved value from these works. People are making big dollars out of some of the renewable energy production, and yet they pay minuscule rates, even though they're being serviced. There's been projects, and council end up paying a lot for the infrastructure on that, certainly encouraging renewable energy, but I think that as a council, we can end up paying for it, for our roads and for the infrastructure on that. And I hope this actually eventuates a bit.
Councillor Brooks.
So what happens now? So on a farm, say for instance, they can potentially get rid of the sheep and cattle and just have a wind farm or solar panels and pay the same rate. Is that how it works now?
They have to apply to have whatever power development they want on their farm, and that will be up to the planning scheme and whether it can happen. They're very unlikely to be able to take away prime agricultural land.
But aren't they
But
doing it
if-
now?
Some farms are able to put some projects on their farms, yes, and as Councillor Terrett said, they make significant funds from those projects. So that's all we're asking for, and we have asked for in the past, is that those developments on the farms, which are added value to the farms and the value of the income of the farm, that they be assessed in rates, so that councils who are servicing the surrounding area get equitable rates.
But at the moment, they don't pay any extra.
No, that's right, just the farm value. No further discussion? I'll put that can't put recommendation. Yes, I can put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And the other items are all just to be noted. So everybody's quite happy that I vote for. So we never move in a second. Councillor Terrett and Councillor Adams. Any discussion? Yes. Yes. Councillor Adams seconded. No discussion on all the noted items. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, 14.2 is the Local Government Association motions for the November 2025 general meeting. And the recommendation is that Council receive the report and list the following matters for consideration at the Legat general meeting to be held the 20th of November. Do you have items that you wish to put forward for motions? I personally would suggest one around the development that we've got a bit of an issue with at Peyton Street, where the potential flooding could be quite significant, and the issue about letting development on very flood-prone land, whether that should go as a motion. We need to word it up. But what do councillors think?
Madam Mayor, can I just suggest that we perhaps list some items and ask for a further report back, and we can bring back reports on these to consider with some recommendations for motions that you may wish to consider to go to the GAT. Might be the easiest way.
We've got time, haven't we, gentlemen?
Yes, there's time. That's why this has come forward here. Councillor Archer.
I think we've mentioned before that the flooding situation is an example of where the state government needs to lead in regards to each individual council having some guidance. It's an issue that's already caused some anxiety, especially in some of our towns, and I'd like to see Legat lead this. It's no good every council going off separately. So I think a motion on some clarity or discussion in regards to the SES flood report and any future reports that come out. I think we all believe we weren't kept in the loop in regards to this study, and it's made it very difficult for all of us, and it's made it very difficult for the public. So in that regard, I'd suggest that some of these issues maybe Legat needs to lead from the front a little bit more, rather than each individual council be caught off guard in regards to this. So that flooding issue which you've just mentioned in regard to Peyton Street is something that is very urgent, I'd suggest.
Do you have a motion to suggest,
I'll
Councillor
push out a motion, please, that we receive the report and bring the matter back for a workshop before bringing it back to a further meeting.
That's fine. Yep. So you can move that as a motion if you wish. I just read out this recommendation.
I'll move as a motion that
Yep.
we receive the report, workshop all things for consideration and bring it back to a further meeting for.
Do we have a
approval.
seconder? Councillor Terrett?
Can we take around just Councillor Archer's?
Yes, yes.
That'll be in the report.
Receive the report and bring, yeah.
To be brought back to council for decision.
So everyone's happy with that? Receive the report and workshop the proposed issues and bring them back for consideration at a further council meeting.
Just
Yes.
suggest a further matter to look at for that workshop is retrospective leave of absence. Now, there's been a number of council books has raised that, but quite often there are emergencies where you don't know you're actually going to go off and leave, and unfortunately, death of a family member or sickness is something that comes up. You don't have time to do it before the meeting, and it comes up after it. You're more concerned about your family member than going for a leave of absence, and sometimes, as has occurred, people who missed 3 council meetings because they couldn't get leave of absence and have had to vacate the position. I think it is worthwhile looking at and maybe is something we could consider.
Workshop as well. Yes, that's fine. Any other issues that you think we should be developing into a motion to legate? Come here, come here. What's he doing there? No? Okay, so we haven't, yes, we've got a mover and a seconder for this. The seconder is councillor Terrett. I'll put that recommendation, all those, sorry, yes?
Propose then other issues so that we get everything in globo. And any other potential issues.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's all okay wording? Yes? All right. Everyone's happy with that? Mover and seconder? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 526, it's not quite. Oh, I've lost my page. Right. Yes, well, planning's next, so we've got a few minutes and I've got to find my page again.
Could we have a motion to say that we bring that forward? So would it be a good idea to suggest a motion
Oh,
to just?
no, that's not fair on the public because there's still some people who might come. Sorry. Only a few minutes. Sorry, people. You've got to follow the rules. I'll go slow when you're watching it. It's 5:30, so can I just remind everybody that they need to have their phones on silent? I should have said that earlier. This is the time of the meeting where members of the public, who are welcome, and if there's any members of the press, you're also welcome, that members of the public can ask a question or make a statement about something that's not related to any of our planning items. So if anybody would like to have 3 minutes to speak or ask a question about something that's not related to a planning item, now's your time. No? Okay, we'll move into planning. Have a mover and a seconder to move into the planning. Councillor Archer, Councillor McCullough. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, planning 1 is 13790 Midlands Highway, Epping Forest, a 2-lot subdivision. Is there any member of the public who wishes to make a statement about that planning item? Just state your name and where you live, and you've got 3 minutes.
No worries. Chloe McCreary
From
from,
understand?
from Epping Forest.
Yes.
Madam Mayor and councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to raise my objection to the proposed subdivision. I just want to make it clear that I understand that development is part of regional growth, and this is not a blanket objection to progress, but a request for careful planning and appropriate safeguards for our community. As has been raised in previous meetings, we're concerned about commercial intensification and its future impact on the quality of life of residents, particularly those of us living on Barton Road. Over time, even small-scale changes can shift land from rural to commercial use, creating lasting consequences for those nearby. What makes this concerning is that our properties on Barton Road are zoned as rural and not residential, meaning the lack of planning protections that apply to residential zones, we aren't offered the same protections, even though we experience the same impacts from nearby development. I would respectfully ask you to consider this from our perspective. If your family home was directly next to the establishment and you knew that the proprietors had expressed intent to attract more truck traffic and patrons if the subdivision did occur, would you feel apprehensive? As local residents, our concerns come from lived experience. Since this current establishment was approved, we've endured road degradation and damage of our driveways from trucks turning in and out, and a significant reduction in privacy in our homes 6 days a week. These issues have remained unresolved and affect our daily quality of life. This subdivision could open the door for increased commercial activity, triggering a chain of further development, causing impacts that could be very difficult or impossible to reverse once underway. Without safeguards, future owners could use the lot for new structures or commercial use beyond current expectations. Once changes occur, reversing them practically and legally is nearly impossible. Given the risk, I strongly urge the inclusion of a restrictive covenant on the title of the newly created lot, binding any future owner. I propose the clause could be something along the lines of the owner of the subdivision agrees to no new buildings or structures, new infrastructure shall be erected or constructed other than those already in existence as of the date of the agreement, except minor alterations or maintenance of existing structures. If it was registered on the title, the covenant ensures that any future owners can't repurpose or expand the lot for commercial activity, preserving the character and livability for Barton Road residents indefinitely. We are simply requesting for fair protections. Barton Road residents should not be left vulnerable due to zoning technicalities, and we deserve to have equal consideration when decisions affect our homes
That's
and our...
your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Sorry. And just for the minute taker, can you spell your last name, please?
MCCREARY. Sorry, I should have done that.
You got it? Yes. Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak about planning 1? Okay, planning 2. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak about planning 2, which is 32 Archer Street, Cressy, a front and side fence? You wish to speak? Yes. State your name and where you live.
Yeah, my name's Roger Gard. I live at 34 Archer Street, and the fence in question, it's already been erected, 1.8 without permit, and the fence prior to that, and has been for probably, well, I've lived there for 30 years, and the fence was 1.3 metres, always has been, and now when I brought the cottage, it's only cottage been built in 1900, and I try to keep it as a cottage, the gardens and everything, the flowers and all. And now this 1.8 metre fence, it's got, I built a sunroom there, because I only have one window on that side. So I trashed all that wall, renovated and put a sunroom there. So this this new fence at 1.8 metres is going to block out nearly all of my sun, especially in winter time, because 1.3 metres is nearly 4.5 foot. To me, that's plenty high enough, and it's as it always was. And another big concern to me is we've had a lot of family homes built in that area, within a half a block to my left and to the right, and I've got the new footpath on my side, and everyone uses it. And with new homes comes children, and at 1.8, you cannot have a look at the street and see if anyone's coming, pedestrians or children, which a lot of them come there on push bikes and that, and it's just a danger. And even I believe with a when you can sort of see through it, translucent, transparent, or whatever it is, it's still not going to work. Because my neighbour, Mr. Clayton, has a large four-wheel drive.
Don't mention names, please.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, my neighbour has a large four-wheel drive, and I've noticed him coming out, and that front wheel and everything is over the footpath before he can look along the footpath and see if any pedestrians coming. But I believe it's a danger to pedestrians, and like I said, now with all these new homes there, there's a lot more children there, and I've noticed that myself. So I don't believe 1.8 metre fence is good for that area. So through my lawyer, we wrote to him and given an alternative, which has been sent to the council, and that was no reply. So I thought that was fair, but we've had no reply to that. But no, that 1.0, I don't believe it's, with that area, and for the safety of all the families that are moving there with all their new houses. And there's still 3 lots around the corner from me, only, for say, 100 yards as the crow flies. There's 3 more to be built. So a lot more families come there, and yeah, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak about planning 2, which is 32 Archer Street, Cressy? Yes, just state your name and where you live, and you've got 3 minutes.
I'm Paul, and I'm from 32 Archer Street. Clayton. We have looked at all the problems that have been considered with it. We have 2 driveways. We have a short side and a high side. We enter from the high side and exit from the low side, so there is no danger to pedestrians and anything like that. I've taken photos in a time lapse through the day of the sunroom. The sunroom gets full sunlight from morning to afternoon, and I have pictures of that to state that. To say that the fence has already been cut to 1300 without permission. I already talked to council about putting the fence up. They said I could have it at 1800 without a permit, which only the first 4.5 metres at the frontage that I had to cut. Now, I hadn't cut that yet because I was then going to go get the permit for it, which I should have done the first time, but I didn't. So, that's
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak about planning or planning 2? Don't wish to say anything? Okay, that's fine. Anyone else in the members of the public who wish to speak about planning 2, which is 32 Archer Street? All right, planning 3 is 92 Main Street, Cressy, part change of use to general retail and hire. Does anyone wish to speak about planning 3? Yes?
Ashley Brook.
What's your last name? Sorry.
Brook.
Brook, yes, yes.
Okay. I live in Launceston. Yeah. Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Ashley Brook from 60 Degrees, and we are the applicant for this planning permit. I'm here on behalf of our client, Damien Bennett, who is the landowner of 92 Main Street at Cressy. The application proposes a modest 66 square metre retail building on land that's owned local business. It presents an opportunity to activate this part of Main Street, support local business and contribute to the vitality of the local area. In response to the representations, we'd briefly like to address the key matters raised. The site is not heritage listed and no heritage provisions apply to the assessment. The development maintains appropriate separation from adjoining properties and retains a suitable area of private open space for the existing dwelling on the site. The proposal falls within the general retail and hire use class, and the local business zoning applying to the property is entirely supportive of this type of use. The proposal will rely on on-street car parking in Main Street and Church Street, with the exception of an accessible space to be provided on site. Both streets have sufficient capacity to meet anticipated parking demand. The proposed building is appropriately designed and sited to be compatible with the character of the area. While the zone provisions encourage building to the frontage, the proposed setback from Main Street responds to TasNetwork's safety requirements for clearance from overhead power lines. Access and parking arrangements are safe and suitable for the proposed use, maintaining road network efficiency. And the expected increase in vehicle movements is minimal and well within the capacity of the road network. The building entrance in Church Street will be clearly visible and encourages pedestrian access and interaction. In summary, this is a modest, well-considered development that aligns with the planning scheme requirements and responds appropriately to the matters raised. We respectfully request that Council support the recommendation for approval. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak about Planning 3, 92 Main Street, Cressy? Okay, we're on to Planning 4, which is 15 Newell Road, Perth. It's a shed varying the southern side setback and the building envelope. Anybody wish to make comment about Planning 4? No? Okay. Planning 5 is 5 Affleck Street, Perth, multiple dwelling and a retirement village. Now, I just need to remind people that can we have 2 speakers for and 2 against? So if there's a whole lot of speakers, decide who's going to speak on your behalf. So anyone who wishes to speak about Planning 5 to 5 Affleck Court, Perth.
My name's Dave Chalmers. I, with my wife Nerily, live at 13 George Street in Perth. This application poses significant risks for us in terms of stormwater, and councillors will know that we have written to you and provided photos to you outlining our concerns. So I just want to make a couple of points this evening to add to what it is that we've written about. The existing situation is that stormwater comes through an easement 10 metres wide, which runs along the creek line in our property. The stormwater floods through that property currently, and it actually exceeds the area of the easement and has caused damage to our property in the past, which council has had to repair. It also causes damage to our landscaping and to other aspects of our property, the paths, which we've had to repair at our own cost. Now, we're significantly concerned that this application doesn't adequately address stormwater. And I say that for 2 reasons. Firstly, the application says that the stormwater from the development will enter the existing system just above our property and will enter before other water from the rest of Perth enters the system, and so it won't add to the peak in the water. I think that statement is glib and doesn't address all of the possible scenarios. The catchment area goes from Gibbet Hill through North and West Perth, and it finishes in our property. So I put it to you that if a storm system, a rainfall event coming south hits Gibbet Hill, it is only moving slowly at say 4 kilometres an hour. It'll take half an hour for that rain to reach our property and the Affleck Court development. So water will be flowing through the stormwater system from the rest of the Perth at the time that the water from this development might start entering our property. There is no grounds to assume or suppose that that can't happen. And in that case, the water would be adding to the peak water flows through our property, adding to the already over-capacity stormwater coming through the easement. Now, there's been no hydrological assessment made. The report just says that the development won't add to the peak flow, and so no further action is required by the applicant. That report also misspells hydrological. And I put it to you that I have no confidence in the expert who wrote that, an expert on water flows who can't spell hydrological. The second point I'd like to make is that the report says that no detention is required. It says no detention is required because detention would retain water to a point when other flows might be coming in, and that would cause an increase to the peak flow. Council can waive detention requirements.
I think you just sum up pretty quickly. It's gone past 3 minutes.
Okay, so there are two reasons why you can waive. Neither of those reasons apply in this case, and they have not been addressed in the report. So my wife and I are very concerned and would like council to require hydrological assessment and proper consideration before the risk of additional stormwater is sent through our property. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak about Planning 5 Affleck Court? Yes.
Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak to you. My name's Jan Davis. I do live at Westbury, but until recently I was a next door neighbour to this proposal. So I'm speaking on behalf of adjacent and adjoining property owners who've been very concerned about this development proposal. Our concerns cover a range of issues. The flooding risk that Mr Chalmers has just spoken about, and also concerns about the overload of the sewage system. We knew that these were issues when that development on Clarence Street, of which Affleck Court is part, were an issue, and nothing has been done subsequent. We're concerned about the changes proposed to parking within Affleck Court, and I'll come back to that. There are some issues about conflicts with the planning scheme requirements in terms of lot sizes. We're very concerned about the issues around road safety and access requirements. And finally, and I'll come through some of these, the exhibited documents had right across the plans that these were superseded plans. There's been no access for us to any plans that are up to date. And so expecting us to make a decision and to make an assessment on plans that are clearly not the current ones is not reasonable. I'm not going to talk about stormwater and sewage because we've already heard a bit about that. The officer's report indicates that the proposal required 25 parking spots, but there's actually only 22 in the plan. The officers say that there's 70 metres of parking in Affleck Court. If anybody's been into Affleck Court, there's not a lot of room in parking there. And then it goes on to say that this is a constraint because even with that amount of parking, there's only a little bit of space for trucks and cars to turn around, 2 metres it says. So the officers have recommended that there be line marking around the majority of the cul-de-sac to stop people parking there, leaving only 32 metres, 4 cars if you were very lucky in the whole street, which is quite unacceptable. Then further in the report, they go on to say that, you know, this is a retirement village, people are only going to need 1 car, even though the title requirements are for 2 parking spaces. So people can park on the street. We've just blocked off the whole street from parking, and you can't assume that people are only going to have 1 car. So the issues around parking are significant, as is the fact that there has been no consultation with the residents of Affleck Court about any changes to the parking at all. Part of this proposal is on community purpose zoning, which is not designed for residential development for full-time housing use, and that's a troubling precedent for our area. The lot sizes outlined in the proposal are not compliant with the zoning requirements, and that too is a concern. The fact that the retirement village has actually not got vehicular access for most of the units is a worry for those who would have to traipse around in the wet and the rain and the conditions that we have here. And finally, we are very concerned about the fact that the retirement village has no street frontage, and that the access issues, particularly for vehicles turning around, are so difficult and so unlikely to be met that this will not be a residential development that suits the area and the residents that would be there. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's 2 people against the proposal. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak for the proposal?
Yes, thank you all. My name's Sarah Henry. I'm from Loretto Community Housing. So we're actually advocating for this development. Look, there's lots I can touch on. I've got a whole list in relation to the stormwater treatments and how we've come to I guess, the decision in terms of what needs to be done there. We're happy to look at that further if need be, and that can include on-site detention in terms of rainwater tanks if need be. But we employ experts in this regard, and I know that you're talking about them not being able to spell, but I think, I think we're all human. So just on that, we're happy to explore that further if need be, and we can do that in terms of on-site detention. In terms of, a lot of the things that you've issued, talked about, Jan, noise. The village is residential in nature with typical household noise. Traffic and parking. The site will generate minimal traffic and includes 22 compliant parking spots. There was reference to property values. That's not something that's accessible under the planning scheme. So we received a copy of the objections that came in through the council. Local character, the development aligns with the residential nature of the area and supports older community members. Environmental impact and infrastructure, Water and council have confirmed adequate infrastructure, and the stormwater details, as I say, have been provided to council and, discussed with the relevant parties. Flooding, the site is not flood prone and the relevant codes do not apply. So this is, information that we have access to. Emergency access, road access meets all standards, and that includes for emergency vehicles. So as a part of our application, we do a traffic impact assessment, and that's part of it. Sewer capacity, Water has no objections, and density, the proposal complies with zoning and the Perth specific area plan. The next thing I want to just jump into, and I'm conscious of 3 minutes, is around the need for housing for over 55s. So there are 270 people on the wait list for one and two bedroom houses within the area. In Perth specifically, there's 63 people on the social housing wait list for housing. The need is there. The development focuses on supporting a frequently overlooked group, people over 55, by providing safe, affordable and accessible housing. The initiative promotes independent living, reduces healthcare strain and enables older residents to downsize, freeing up larger homes for families. And I just refer back to the Perth specific compatibility plan. The plan highlights a growing need for smaller, diverse housing options due to declining household sizes and slow population growth. To meet this demand, the compatibility plan recommends promoting semi-detached and medium to high density housing. Okay. Can I do? Consolidating development into areas with adequate infrastructure, encouraging a range of housing types to support a diverse and inclusive community, and offering affordable, low-maintenance homes that suit changing demographics. Thank you.
Okay, so that's 2 against and 1 for. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favour of the proposal? Yes.
My name's Reverend Gannon. I'm the rector of Christchurch, Longford, and also the Anglican and parish of Perth as well. We own the land that this development's going to happen on, and we are very keen to try and provide affordable housing for people, and as part of what we're trying to do for our community, and to give this more opportunity for people to stay locally, to stay in their homes, and we're trying to do something that's trying to do it legitimately and to try and provide this. It's community purpose land, which means we can use it for retirement people. It is allowable, and we're just trying to do our bit to try and help people in the community. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, planning 6 is 20 Union Street, Longford, the ambulance station. Is there anyone who wishes to make a statement for or against? Okay, it's up to us now. We're back to planning 1. Planning 1 is 13790 Midlands Highway, Ebbing Forest, 2-lot subdivision. There's a recommendation that the planning application 250072 to develop and use the land at 13790 Midlands Highway, Ebbing Forest for 2-lot subdivision be approved, subject to the following conditions, and there's a whole lot of conditions there. So I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor McCullough. Yes, and a seconder, please. Councillor Andrews. Councillor McCullough, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I've listened to, I've looked at this, and this is the second time it's been back before us. I'm going to support this motion. In relation to our friend here that's made the representation, any future development on that site would be required to come back to council on the subsidiary site. So I'm comfortable in making that decision that any future development of the site would come back and before us on a whole new gambit. I think it's probably an opportunity to, at that point in time to improve the service in the road area at that time. But other than that, I don't have too many problems with it.
Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question before I speak. The suggestion that a covenant might be able to be put on this development application that any further development be restricted, is that possible with something like this, or would that, as Councillor McCullers suggested, have to come back to if there's an application for any further development?
The difficulty with covenants is that covenants are typically occur between the owner of the land and, well, the subdivider of the land and then the ongoing purchasers. Typically, you'll see covenants to restrict design types and things like that. You don't usually see covenants that have contradictions to what's allowable in the planning scheme that really stand up in the sense that you can apply them, but as an assessing officer, we don't, unless the covenant is with council, we don't take into consideration that covenant. A Part 5 is another alternative, but it's the same sort of thing. The intent of the Part 5 is not to prohibit use that is permitted in the zone through separate assessment. So,
thank you.
Councillor Adams.
I was concerned about the Barton Road, the turn-in, and that definitely needs some work. I well aware that with all the work on and the millions of dollars on the Midlands Highway, that no money was spent on Barton Road intersection, and they sort of ignored that was there. It's a total T-junction. Now it's an 80 speed limit, but any increased traffic into that area should be dealt with engineering, and it hasn't been. And I take the point. So, and I'm concerned that there isn't anything about the turnover. I guess it has to meet the standard of what we set, but there certainly needs to be a standard, Australian standard of the turn-in off Barton Road into this development.
And is there any restrictions we can put on that?
in terms of turning,
Yeah, crossover.
Is that in the recommendation,
Or
the crossover?
crossover?
no, I believe it's just related to the easement for the right of way, not about the access itself. The report states that there's not proposed to be any changes to the existing access, so there was no further consideration within.
The access isn't good now. So we're building a subdivision. We've got a subdivision before us, and we've got nothing in our recommendations on conditions. I find that really difficult to accept.
So just to clarify, you're talking about the existing access to the not convict, the confessional.
To an outlet, coffee outlet.
At the time of assessment of those sorts of applications that create the use that the traffic is generated from is the time really to require those sorts of works to occur. Subdivisions can, in some senses, have consideration of access, but in this circumstance, it's a proposed right of way and things like that, so there's no change to the existing access deemed sort of considered.
Councillor Brooks.
Just on the access again, but once the subdivision's there, won't that increase the traffic in the access to then warrant some sort of works done there? Like we're creating a situation where it'll bring more traffic, in my opinion, and I couldn't support it.
I'd argue that potentially not, because you existing have two uses on the site, one being the sort of commercial, the other being the agricultural use that occurs on the balance of the land, using the existing accesses because there's no access off the highway. So by formalising a subdivision, all you're doing is separating the titles of the two uses, but you're not actually, by that separation, increasing anything. The existing use would still continue to occur unless future development or use changed.
And that's the fear, future development, that's my fear.
To clarify, for future use of the site, so say for instance the existing business there wanted to increase, expand or anything like that, it would be subject to council consideration. One of the things that we do look at in the road and rail corridor code, access code, is number of traffic movements from an existing access and whether or not the existing access is suitable, that sort of thing. So if there was proposal in the future for expansion or intensification or anything like that, I would think that a development application at that point would be an appropriate time to state that it is required because of the increase from the existing situation to improve.
Councillor Archer.
Yes, look, I agree that a future decision on any development should come before council, and obviously there'll be issues in regards to that. Obviously, State Growth have refused access to this site from the highway, so they're being reduced. The only choice is to come off Barton Road, and maybe there is a situation where if traffic to that business does increase, that there might be some roadworks required by council on Barton Road. But at this stage, I consider that we are covered fairly well, that any future development will require us to make a judgment. And also the issue is that at present in Barton Road, that narrow strip of rural land could have any size trucks coming in and out there all the time, large trucks with grain or potatoes. So it's not as though this is creating heavy traffic. This is actually mostly, I'd suggest, light traffic. There is a business on the other side of the road which is ideal for trucks. And I would be very unhappy if this business decided it was going to compete with those trucks to get them into Barton Road. I think we'd have a bit of an issue with that. Otherwise, I support the application.
Any further discussion? Councillor Goss.
Yeah, a couple of questions. The first one was Mrs Mercurio spoke about if her property is agricultural, it's a residential property as such, but it comes under agricultural zone. If her property, if that was residential, would there be any more restrictions on this application?
If her property was zoned differently?
Yeah.
No, I can't see that being a consideration. It goes on the zone of the land being developed, essentially, not necessarily on the adjoining land. Sometimes the zone of adjoining land does come into consideration, but that typically has to do with potentially conflicting uses on a site that might impact amenity, where amenity is considered in a zone.
And my second question is, I couldn't see anything about hours of operation. Should we need to have something in there that indicates what hours of operation can be? Because, I think that's something that probably could help the neighbours if those were restricted a bit.
For the existing business, the hours aren't proposed to change. The application is purely just for subdivision. It's got nothing to do with the existing business as such in terms of changing that existing approved operation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to ask for clarification.
My question was, if we put some set hours on it, because of this subdivision, then if they go outside of that later, then we can actually go back to that now. If we don't put something there now, then we can never go back to it again because it's a new subdivision.
Professionally, I couldn't support that as a proposal, simply being it's an existing approved use with existing approved hours of operation. So if they occurred outside of that existing hour or they looked to intensify what was beyond approved to go earlier or later, that sort of thing, that is something that will come back for consideration at council to substantially change their existing approval. It wouldn't be appropriate to put it on the subdivision application as there's no direct link per se to the operation of that business, more the footprint of where it sits.
Councillor Brooks, you have a question?
Just a question. What's the intent of the subdivision? Like, to me, it's the intent of it is to open the footprint up to allow further expansion. Like, correct me if I'm wrong.
The intent is to excise off or to separate the two existing uses. The larger parcel of agricultural land, which granted not all of that land is used agriculturally, but it's to separate the existing business and the car park associated with that approved use from the balance land. So in the performance criteria, it talks about you can only do certain pathways to go below certain lot sizes and things like that if you are basically cutting off an existing use. Now, whether that's a house and you were just taking off the house from the farmland or something else, there's different restrictions in how you can do it. But the pathway that this application has gone to go down is to separate the existing approved use from the balance land and just purely separate it. If it was to intensify, there is still provision for them to do that, but again, it's through separate proposal which would consider access and things.
Councillor Andrews, do you have Councillor McCullough, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit confused with the fact that this is just a line on a piece of paper, literally splitting the property in two. It maintains its agricultural zoning and it maintains what's existing there currently. So basically, in order to answer Councillor Brooks, one of the samples might be that they might be just trying to sell that piece of land off to the owner of the confessional. I don't know, but that's just one option they might have. So they can't do anything different to what they're doing. They can't change their hours. They can't do anything like that. It's not about that. It's about the piece of land being there, separated from the agricultural land, which would need rezoning. So it's got to come back before us anyway. So again, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with this.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Councillor Brooks is the only one against. The motion's carried. Planning 2, 32 Archer Street, Cressy, a front and side fence. Have a mover and a seconder for Councillor McCullough. And a seconder, please, for Councillor Brooks. Councillor McCullough.
Interesting one, this one. So I think the Act allows 1.5, is it? 1.5?
1.2 solid.
1.2 solid, and I think we've given discretion to 1.3.
Yes, we've proposed a
1.3 with some additional time. I don't see that it's, I'm even dubious of giving the extra transparency, but I can live with it. But I think we've got to be a little bit conscious of the safety issues. I've had a look at the sides of corner site. I suppose that I'm supportive of it. It's not fantastic, but I'll leave it to the other councillors.
What I should have done, Councillor McCullough, was actually read the first part of the application. This is for the people listening. The application is planning 250103 to develop and use the land at 32 Archer Street, Cressy, for a front boundary fence and partial side boundary fence be approved subject to the following conditions, and there's a whole lot of conditions. So you finished, Councillor McCullough?
I was just going to say, one of the other things is whilst the owner of 32 said that, I've looked at there's two driveways, that possibly doesn't consider the safety issues from, it must be 30 or 34 on the other side, looking back down the street. So I think we've certainly got the transparency, the height. I think that discretion's been a nice win for both parties, probably for the owner of 32. So again, back to the other councillors.
Councillor Brooks, you wish to speak?
I do, or just not just yet.
You won't get another chance.
Oh, there's no one else is speaking, are they?
Well, you've seconded the motion, that's why you get asked now.
I'll have a speak when I put my hand up there.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to discuss party? Councillor
The
Adams.
safety aspect and concern that people build things without seeking approval, and the argument is that a fence is so high and then you can see through it, so you can pedestrians and people, there are safety issues involved here. Planning has endeavoured to deal with that, and I think we're getting close to where people can live with what's coming out.
Any further discussion? Do you wish to sum up, Councillor? Do you wish now to speak? Right.
Yeah. So the front fence, is that already up? There was a speaker there that said that the front fence is actually erected. So is this a retrospective approval for the front fence? So there is a safety concern with the front fence, in my opinion, coming out of that street, to be able to see what's coming up the road. So yeah, I wouldn't support the front fence being left at 1800 unless we can cut the fence down to a manageable height and a safety height. But the other fence I'm quite okay with.
And I asked the planner, that was already.
That's what I've recommended, given the understanding that the previous fence that was there was installed to a height of 1.3. That's where I've taken the variation of the standard 1.2, which is exempt, to state that the variation could be that it remain at it be altered to 1.3 solid, and then the top be meeting that transparency requirement.
Even though transparency, you're talking like lattice on top of it, is that what you're sort of?
Lattice.
It's very hard to look through that if you're on an angle. If you're looking through lattice straight on, it's okay, but if you're looking through lattice or any sort of fence topper, it's very hard to see.
It doesn't have to be lattice, like the sort of crisscross sort of nature that you do see on a lot of colour bond fences, especially in sort of built up areas. It could be horizontal slats, which are a little bit easier to see through. Basically, the provision can be met provided that the overall fence has 30% transparency, and that intent is that as you are approaching to the junction between the actual property boundary and the road, there is a chance of visibility of pedestrians or cyclists or anything like that.
I think the concern here is we have a solid fence, and as you drive around the council area, it's vegetation much higher than that, and that's actually excluded. So if there is a will to have a higher area, you can in fact put vegetation, which would actually go higher, but that allows people to see through that as well, to some extent. And the safety concerns are real, and the precedent this would actually set for other people, if we allow this to go through 1.8 solid fence, other people will be wanting to also go that high. And I know we have cases of people that want to put a 1.8 and higher fence in front of their house. The council has to really set rules, and unfortunately for some people that may not be to their liking, but there are alternatives. And whether that's having a much more open fence style, allowing views through those, vegetation, there are other options to look at, and I'll have to support this motion, but on the basis there are alternatives to look at, and the applicant may wish to examine some of those other alternatives.
Councillor Andrews.
Just to make the point that I think that's actually been addressed. I think what our planner is saying is that that's actually been addressed, and the proponent of the fence has agreed that it'll be lowered to 1.3.
It's my recommendation that the application be approved on that condition, that it be lowered. It was applied for as solid 1.8, but as I cannot demonstrate that a solid 1.8 fence along the frontage, as it's shown in the proposal, can pass those tests, that's where I've recommended that a fence that varies the acceptable provisions can be met, but not as stated. So the other option with this application was refusal. I've gone for an option that allows something to occur that still varies the application proposed.
Councillor Goss, did you wish to speak?
Just number 30 Archer Street, which is the one moving to the north, that's got hedges outside it, so I mean, those hedges will probably be higher than 1.8, I would say. I'm only guessing that they'd be that kind of height, and I don't think we've had any incidents there, so 1.8 does work in that area, and I've got evidence there, and 28's got pretty high bushes and fences as well, so along that street there's quite a few, there's at least 2 properties emerging to the north which have got high hedges and fences, or I think that's what they are. So I'll support the motion.
Any further discussion? Councillor McCullough, would you wish to sum up?
Just clarifying, it's
You
one.
can sum up, Councillor McCullough.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying, it's 1.5 with
1.3.
1.3 with 500 mil of transparency, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Planning 3 is 92 Main Street, Cressy, part child use to general retail and hire. And the recommendation from the council officer is that the application planning 250097 to develop and use the land at 92 Main Street, Cressy for general retail and hire retail premises, new building with associated parking and signage be approved, subject to conditions. Councillor McCullough, you're moving, and Councillor Brooks is seconding. Councillor McCullough.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of issues with this. I think we don't know what it is, of course, but we've got to rely on our esteemed planner, who gives us an undertaking that it will be a welcome business to the council, to the town of Cressy, and doesn't have any real issues with the proposal, so I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Brooks, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I think Cressy's one of these towns that nothing much happened there for a long time. The last few years, Cressy's really starting to move, and it's good to see that some businesses that have already in Cressy have then created a lot of growth in Cressy, and now this has sprung up. So I think it is really good for Cressy to get new businesses into the town, and I wish the applicants luck in whatever the business is, and I'm sure it'll go well.
Any further discussion? Councillor Goss.
Yeah, the only thing I'm disappointed is that there's no on-street, off-street parking for the business. You know, they're going to have people coming frequent the place, and I think that in our planning system, we need to have businesses need to have parking off the street, and there is room for this business to have parking off Church Street, and I think that should have been part of the application as well, but it's not there, so I will support it. But it'd be really great if the business could provide some parking off street for their business.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, well, there's a lot of good economic activity going on, and Cressy is benefiting from that. So there's been a lot of pluses with irrigation, and we were out visiting only a week ago the new Cressy pipeline going in, the irrigation scheme, which will again boost farming and intense farming greatly. And I'm very pleased. When I was a boy wandering around Cressy, there was a lot more shops than there is now. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to that economic activity, but I don't see this. I see this thing. Parking can be an issue, but I see Church Street, there's quite a lot of parks there, and there's some in the main street. So it shouldn't interfere with people that live around it. So in too much. And so yeah, I will support this.
Councillor Terrett.
Just a question. I think Councillor Goss made a very good point in relation to parking. There'll be deliveries made there, and it's all being done straight off the street. Is there any possibility to the planner whether there can be some parking provisions included in this approval?
I think that's a fair question. The issue that you have is that you have an existing house on the site, so it comes down to the planning authority. If they want to impose a condition that adds additional parking, you need to be conscious that with the design as it is doesn't so much allow for it as is. You would be asking for a redesign of the site, and that does come up to the question of, is it substantially different to what was proposed, and should it just be a refusal with a new application? But the other thing to consider with that, if you did have extra parking on the site, is that you are taking away what's left of the private open space of the existing residents on the site. So it's that balance of existing use to proposed business on the site. And reality being in that situation, while the representations are correct, there are a lot of businesses around the site that park on the street already, so it's already it's not like it's just open, you know, the streets. As you see, a lot of the existing uses, especially opposite the road, park on the street and things like that. But as I've stated previously, within my report, there's intended to be a high sort of turnover here, so I think the absence of the parking on the site, other than for those that require that direct ease of access for all access disability parking, I think will be sufficient to meet the test of this application. But it is up to you, it's the authority.
Any discussion from those who haven't spoken yet? No. Councillor McCullough, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, it's a corner site, so there's plenty. I think there's plenty of parking up there. I mean, you get in the street 500 metres, you've got the bakery, which is inundated, but seems to manage traffic well. This has got both Church Street and Main Street, and across the road, and a park on the other side. So to me, there's absolutely abundant parking there. People just have to walk a little bit further. So I'll be approving it. I'll be supporting it. Sorry.
I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Planning 4 is 15 Newell Road, Perth, a shed varying the southern side setback and building envelope. You're moving that, councillor McCullough? And councillor Archer is seconding. Councillor McCullough?
Nothing to say, Mayor, except I was supporting
Councillor Archer?
Yes, all I'll say is they seem to have covered the shading issues that often sheds cause in residential areas, so that seems to have been covered. And there were no representations, so I'm happy to support it.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Planning 5 is 5 Affleck Street, Perth, multiple dwellings by 2 and a retirement village. And there's a mover and a seconder for us to discuss it. Councillor Brooks, and a seconder, please.
We're only moving to discuss it, aren't we?
No, we're moving the motion. We're not to
sorry,
discuss.
sorry.
We need a mover of a recommendation.
I'll give you a new recommendation.
Foreshadow another
Yeah, I'll
motion.
foreshadow another
You
motion.
can move a
I'll
recommendation
make a
now.
recommendation that we get an extension from the applicant to go back and get further reports on the stormwater and the parking.
Can we do that?
I believe the existing extension of time that was approved by the applicant to take the matter to this meeting. I believe that expires today, the decision to be due today. We can go back to request an extension of time. There is risk to council if that extension is refused. There's also the provision under the Act that if a decision is not made within the statutory timeframe, there is right for the applicant to appeal. It is a deemed approval, and it is to the tribunal. They go to the tribunal essentially to seek conditions.
So your recommendation?
I'm just asking, is Ms Henley the actual applicant?
Yes.
Would you be privy to give us an extension, because we actually need to get a little bit this right about the stormwater and the parking? And I'll tell you why, because the parking, there's no measurements on there, and there's no turning circles, and we couldn't do that. And the stormwater's been raised tonight. I think they can be overcome. But
Yeah, I agree. Look,
I think we need to do it properly.
But just be mindful, Councillor McCullough, of the requirements under the planning scheme, that we may need to have it today.
I'm trying to head that off at the pass, Mayor.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
There might be another way of framing the proposal so that we asked for the matter to be deferred, given...
You can foreshadow a motion if you wish. We haven't actually moved and seconded this one yet, but...
Councillor McCullough hasn't sort of put his motion in words yet, so he might be able to use different words. Given that the applicant has said when she spoke to us that they were willing to look at the stormwater issues again, that maybe we could foreshadow a motion that defers the decision on the application till we can go back to the proponent to ask if she's willing to look at the stormwater issues again.
Same thing, but I think if we could seek approval now.
We'll hear from the council officer first.
So the applicant is, from our system in terms of how we process it, is MC Planners on behalf of Loreto Community Housing.
Yes.
So provided that the applicant, MC Planners, was in support of an extension to, I'm assuming, to the next council meeting, so a month, you could potentially foreshadow that, bearing in mind that delaying the decision, there's no requirement under the scheme to re-advertise any documents. We wouldn't going back to the start with the application. It would purely be just a decision.
Talks with the proponent.
That's fine.
So you are seconding Councillor McCullough's motion? We better get a motion.
We need to ensure that the applicant's happy with that, because if the applicant refuses, that's it.
Well, the applicant's in the room. And she's...
It's all right. We need to do it correctly, though.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So we can ask the applicant this question?
Well, the question's been asked.
Yes.
Question's been asked.
Right.
Look, I guess our undertaking is we have employed experts to look at the stormwater. We've engaged with council. We're willing to look at some other options in terms of installing rainwater tanks to cover some of the imperious runoff from the roofs of the units, so we're happy to look at that. But I don't know how much deeper we can go in terms of, you know, we've looked at it all, and we've had RFIs through council.
Madam Mayor,
yeah.
I would suggest if council's worried about the water, that they condition it accordingly, because obviously you're not getting a definite yes to the extension.
So we put it in a condition in this application.
If I could, couldn't support this motion tonight if I was forced to do that based on stormwater and parking. I'm asking, and I strongly hope that you would give us a 30-day extension.
No, 30 days extension is another 30 days that we
Understand
we can't start building these houses.
Understand
Yeah, and we've taken a long time to get to this
Understand
point.
that as well, but we've been given.
Yes, that's,
No more of that.
yes, right, councillor Brooks, we're not discussing this part of it. We haven't actually got a motion on the books yet.
Is there something that you can?
Is there some way we can condition this to cover the stormwater and parking?
Okay, can I have another crack at it?
No, we'll let the officer answer, please.
I'm not sure I understand what you're looking to condition with the stormwater itself in terms of what the issue that you're trying to condition is. If you can
Well, I
clarify.
want to see that the parking is compliant and in with Australian standards. I can't see it on the plans anywhere, so.
I can confirm I did double check my measurements in the system. It does comply with the Australian standard for the
I'm
parking.
seeing here that there's, the cars are 1.87 metres, and as I showed you before, there was 16.
Yes, I've measured on the plan.
15.9 metres.
I've measured definitely on the plan, and they are just bear with me so I don't say the wrong measurements on the record. 2.6 metres wide, they are 5.4 metres long, and there is the 5.8 metres in manoeuvring, which does comply 100% with AS 2890, which is the Australian standard.
So we haven't got an agreement to extend, and we need a motion tonight. So I need a mover and a seconder of a motion. We've got a mover to extend, but Councillor Brooks, are you moving the motion?
I'll move a motion to refuse this application. And I'm not only talking
Right,
about...
before you discuss it,
Right.
you're moving a motion to refuse. Do we have a seconder? You're seconding to refuse the
I just
motion?
want to seek clarification because we have no basis. I want the basis, so
I've got plenty of...
the refusal, such things as stormwater, overdevelopment of site, noise and amenity,
So you're
parking
seconding the
constraints.
refusal?
Yeah, if we have those conditions included on those concerns that are raised.
Oh,
All right, now we probably need to know what the implications of a refusal are, or we just discuss it?
I think that's a decision that council can make, but I'll make it clear that I believe it's going to be difficult to argue those issues. But again, that is the planning authority's right to refuse it, and they do, as Councillor Terrett indicated, they need to name the reasons why.
Okay, Councillor Brooks.
I don't believe it is going to be hard to argue these reasons, and I've got some pretty good facts and figures here in front of me to talk about as to why I'd be quite happy to refuse this application. Stormwater parking, just a small part of it in my opinion. So I'll go on to the first point that I'd like to raise, would be the incompatibility with neighbourhood character. The proposed density and cluster style layout is significantly at odds with the prevailing character of Affleck Court. A low density cul-de-sac of single dwellings on generous sized lots. While residential use is permissible, the scale and form do not integrate sensitively with the existing built environment and risks undermining the visual cohesion of the streetscape. The relevant provisions for those is Clause 10, 4.1, residential character amenity. Go on to 2, the access and traffic safety limitations. Although submitted the traffic impact assessment suggests compliance, I remain concerned that the site's position at the closed end of a cul-de-sac restricts safe and efficient access, especially for emergency service vehicles, delivery vehicles and visitor parking. The turning radius and on-street parking capacity are already limited in this area. The relevant provisions, E5.0, Road and Rail Asset Code, Safe and Practical Vehicle Access. Australian Standards 2890.1, Parking Standards, Functionality for Service and Emergency Vehicles. Residents have consistently raised historical concerns like we did here tonight about pooling and stormwater runoff in this area. While reports have been provided, I do not believe there has been sufficient demonstration that the increased site coverage won't exacerbate localised drainage issues or impact neighbouring properties, as we've heard tonight. The relevant provisions, E7.0 Stormwater Management Code, on-site detention and disposal, Schedule 6 site-specific flood responsiveness, informal overlays. The fourth point I'd like to bring up is the overdevelopment and lack of open space. The proposed number of dwellings constitutes a significant intensification of a relatively small site. The design offers minimal private or communal open space, which is essential for the health and well-being of older residents. This falls short of providing adequate residential amenity. The relevant provisions, Clause 10, 4.3, private open space requirements. And the last point I'd like to bring up is social isolation and service disconnection. While I support the broader objective of providing housing for over 55s, this particular site is not well connected to public transport, healthcare or essential services. For a vulnerable and potentially mobility limited demographic, this risks further social isolation and poor access to supports, contrary to the objectives of the community-based aged housing.
Councillor Terrett.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry, you haven't finished. I thought you finished. Sorry, beg pardon. Beg pardon.
Sorry for going on a bit, but it's a very important.
Just say what you have to say.
So in summary, this proposal may comply in part with technical provisions, but when assessed against the broader strategic intent, the amenity expectations and the feedback from the local community, I do not believe it achieves the standard of development our planning scheme intends. Therefore, I do not support the application, and I do encourage Council to consider a refusal or deferment for further redesign that better aligns with the area's character, infrastructure and community needs.
Councillor Terrett.
Can I seek to clarify the motion, because we currently don't have conditions of refusal on that, and that some of those points that Councillor Brooks has just raised need to be included. Should this matter be looked at further, and most significantly stormwater, that there is concerns for stormwater in a much more expanded area. So the increase, so I'll add some additional.
We'll add them. So underneath that, we need the conditions of refusal.
The increased risk of.
You want them? I've got them all here if you want. We'll pass them over to Brandy.
To the minute taker.
Sorry.
Yeah. The headings should be sufficient.
Start at number 1, Marie.
Yeah, just, oh, hang on. Just go to number 1. Just put the headings in. Oh, where have you gone?
Take that as table, Madam Mayor, because,
Yes.
and we can make sure they're incorporated.
We'll incorporate all those. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Brooks has spoken. Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak further?
I'd like to have the motion fully, because even for people who are listening, need to know what those items are.
Well, Councillor Brooks has gone through them all, so that's what's going to be put on here.
But I think
So
it
you
needs
can
to be
speak now.
clarified rather than later on saying, oh, we forgot to put this on, or that all those matters are covered. And I seek that the councils give the minute taker the ability to put up that, so one, we know what we're voting on as well.
Madam Mayor, can I suggest in the future that this information is provided to officers prior to the minutes, meeting? They can be provided and it can be included at that time.
And we can have other speakers and come back to you, Councillor Terrett, if you wish. All right, anyone else wants to discuss? Councillor Archer.
Yes, firstly, I'd just like to say that I think this process has been to some degree rushed. I do have some concerns in regards to access and parking. In our discussions earlier today at a workshop, it does seem to me not good that in subdivision of land for community purpose or residential, and this is a combination, that traffic is forced from one site through another to a council road. I don't think in the development plan that access through to Elizabeth Street should have been thought of as part of the subdivision. And even though it seems to pass all the tests, there has been some discussion about the amount of traffic going through. So I believe traffic is an issue that may be resolved by deferment, but basically at this stage probably is legal. The other issue is stormwater. The actual runoff from this site, this development, will be relatively small compared to the massive flows that come down through 1 to 3 George Street. We mentioned earlier about a hydrological study for this catchment. I believe it needs to be done. I believe there are options further up the catchment, a couple of options for detention basins. And with further development at Gibbet Hill and the slope of Gibbet Hill and the rocky nature of it, detention is going to be a necessity for further development in East Perth. Deferment of this would give us a chance to look at a hydrological study. And even though I said that the runoff from this site probably wouldn't increase the flow that much compared to the massive flows, the owners of 1 to 3 bought land in a flooding easement. The development of the area has exacerbated that, and therefore any further works the council is required to do on their land, I think, should be resolved if we can find a way to fund some detention basins further up the catchment. But this will require time. I support the development and the housing, but I think with the notification today that there might be some work done on the stormwater, the fact that we haven't had a hydrological study before me of the whole catchment, and perhaps some redesign, maybe another access to Elizabeth Street could be a possibility, I'm not sure. But I think it is well worth going ahead with this project, but at this stage I would refuse it, but would encourage the proponents to keep going with it with some changes.
Can I say?
No, I'm sorry. No, sorry. Any further discussion? You moved it, Councillor McCullough. Oh, no, that's all right. We've got a different... Councillor Brooks and Councillor Terry. Okay, Councillor McCullough, sorry.
Given the discussions have now evolved, I would again foreshadow a motion to defer the matter for a further 30 days for the proponent to come back to us rather than not supported at this point in time. I just, there's too many unknowns at this stage for us, and I would encourage, but it is a good project, so it's got a lot of upside, it's got a few downside, but again, I would encourage the proponent to...
You're foreshadowing a motion, okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Goss.
Hi. Yes, just, I know there's been a fair bit of discussion already, but I think one thing we do need to maybe include in this development also is that in Affleck Court, there's sort of no footpath from on the southern side of Affleck Court, and Affleck Court is a really narrow street, and I just wondered if this development's going to be down there, then the street needs to be probably widened a touch, so we've got more access for traffic down there, and also that footpath needs to be extended on the southern side so people can walk from this development down to Clarence Street and into the Perth township. There is a footpath on the other side, but it's not connected to this property either, so it'd be good to have some footpath connected to this property. So I don't know if that can be included in that.
It is there.
Oh, you're
Access.
coming back to you, sorry.
Access, it says access on there, but
Access and traffic safety. So access, you could put more in there if you want to, councillor Ross.
we're okay, if that covers it, I'm okay with that. I think that thing is really.
Path access if you wanted to.
Councillor Brooks, so you're happy with what's in there?
I think the intent's of access, but
It's there.
I think that
You can add some.
Access and traffic safety limitations. Beg your pardon.
We have amenity there.
Councillor Terrett.
Just with the mover's consent, I'd also like the inclusion of a point 7, is that the advertised plans were stamped superseded and don't match the applicant details. So what was actually at the consultation was not the same as was put out to community consultation. So words along these lines that the advertised plans were stamped, superseded, and did not match the applicant details, and community were not fully informed of the development, something like that.
The applicant details will probably be enough. Yes. You wish. You can speak now if you wish.
Oh,
Please.
just a couple of points of clarification to provide, and also seeking one if that's all right. Councillor Brooks, you mentioned a lot with the dot points. You mentioned clauses in relation to 10.4.1 and 10.4.7 and things like that. Is that, and you mentioned also a code E7. I just need to clarify because the 10.4.1 relates to the low density zone, not to the general residential zone. Are you stating that it should be in accordance with the previous scheme's low density provision, or the current scheme's low density provisions? Okay. And with E7, we don't have an E7 under the current scheme. Do you mean
E7?
that would have been under the previous scheme, and you said it was the stormwater code?
Just check it then with what the code is now.
Currently, we don't actually have a stormwater code. That's just what I wanted to clarify. Under the Tasmanian planning scheme, there isn't a stormwater code. So whether or not you needed to consider that in how it's reflected before you vote. A couple of other points in relation to the points raised. As someone that, if this decision is passed, will need to explain it to the tribunal and to any representatives, that sort of thing, that, not representatives, sorry, anyone that appeals the decision. Would it be possible for you to be a little bit more specific about some of the things in terms of incompatibility with neighbourhood character? Is there a clause in the current scheme that...
We'll end up putting all this in.
We can all fill
that
that out.
relates to those? Okay, right. Oh, and just a point of clarification for the engineering details. I have to apologise. I'm not sure what happened there. The plans that were advertised were actually the correct set. I think something happened between compiling the updated plans and that the wrong set got stamped as superseded and copied into the combined documents. But with regard to that too, the stormwater details and the engineering details that were provided and such, that they do provide a certain level of detail to the application itself, but the reality being that the stormwater and services requirements are only considered as far as the application is concerned with subdivision, in demonstrating that all lots have access to services to meet those provisions in the scheme. There's not actually the requirement in the scheme to advertise those sorts of, or to have those sort of details provided to us at the application stage as such. We obviously request them in certain detail to assess against council's policies and things, like on-site detention policies, the stormwater quality management policy and so on. But the level of detail that provided there was a little bit more than is technically required.
Any further discussion? Councillor Terrett, yes, you haven't had your turn, sorry. Right.
I think moving against this resolution, there are a number of concerns, and for a development like this to go in an area which is already having stormwater concerns, and that goes back to council in a much more broader sense, any development in this area will put additional pressure on the stormwater system. And quite correctly, as already been stated tonight, the 10-metre easement is exceeded on numerous occasions because of the increase in density of housing in this general area. Council needs to much more outside of this development to start looking at detention basins generally if we're going to have more development in the Perth area, and especially if we're getting more backfilling and additional properties in there. The flooding is a concern along the river, and whilst stormwater, the comment saying that this would not address the detention on site would not address the stormwater, it certainly wouldn't make it any worse. The effect on the traffic, telling people, as is in the plan, that you no longer have parking in front of your place because we're going to try to assist a development further up the road, I don't think that's very digestible to the residents in there, and I think it is unfair. The road is designed when it was approved at that width. If we wanted to bring that into account, we should be looking at either expanding the size of the road to allow vehicles to go in and out. Garbage trucks would have difficulty getting in and out, and the number of bins being put on the footpath, there's just no room there. This is a very tight cul-de-sac, and even getting people to put their bins out would be an exercise in itself. We already know that garbage collection is difficult, but the other aspect here is the traffic movements, and being an over 55 development, unfortunately, emergency vehicles will come into those areas. People who are caring after aged people do come at all hours. It's not a 9 to 5 as a carer, and there'd be an increased movement in and out of that driveway. The neighbour on against that driveway would have additional noise onto their property, and also lights at night. This would be an increased movement for those neighbours, and I think it would be an unfair imposition on those by the council to expect that additional movements within a single cul-de-sac of aged over 55 development, and they should wear the noise and the cost associated with that, in as much that their amenity is directly affected. There is a need much broader, and we're putting it was already mentioned, the number of properties, whilst it may be compliant with the zonings, it means that we're having more hard services. At the moment, the rain, when it does come, soaks in, and the overdevelopment of this, and I welcome somebody over 55, I welcome them to have developments, but it's how the quality of life on those people as well, and how we can do it better. This is an opportunity to have quality over 55 accommodation. Unfortunately, I'm not criticising the applicant, but it's a very dense location, and maybe it's not the right location for an over 55 development of this scale as such, and I think it needs to be re-examined, the number of units that are on there. As far as traffic, I've already spoken about that. There is also safety, and the driveway of number 7 virtually comes out of the same spot as the entrance to the common driveway for this property, and that means that their vehicles could actually block across those two driveways as well. It's a development that, in a broader sense, would have merit, but I think there is concerns of the local neighbours who would have their amenity in that street most severely affected. And I'm also looking at the tenants of those properties as well. If you move into an area which is not the development's not welcomed, then I think that also plays on the residents, and you've got to keep that into mind. It might tick some of the boxes. I don't think it ticks all the boxes, but these are some of the concerns, such as stormwater, traffic, safety, overdevelopment. Social isolation is a fair distance. There's no footpaths up one way, as we've heard earlier, and there is no being able to connect to a community is somewhat difficult where it is located. And I could not support approval on this occasion.
Any further discussion? Councillor Goss. Oh, Councillor Goss, you've already spoken, sorry.
Before this was up on the board, though, so I couldn't see what was on there because we didn't really have a SD. So I'd like to just have a moment, one take one.
Okay. We may have to get to the rules and start timing councillors. 5 minutes is what you're supposed to have.
I can't support this motion on here because what I'm a bit worried about is that if we refuse it here, then it'll go to the planning commission. We've heard from our council officer that this meets all the planning conditions. So if it goes to the planning tribunal, there's a fair chance that they're going to approve it as it is. I think the best way forward for us is to, Councillor McCullough's motion is to defer it and see if we can get some kind of negotiation to get something better for us, rather than refusing it and then going through to the tribunal and getting rubber stamped anyway. So I think that we need to not accept this motion and the foreshadow motion that Councillor McCullough put forward, we move on that.
Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Adams, you haven't spoken yet.
It's true. It's true. I haven't. And yeah, it's great to see a development come before us, but I believe that it's overcrowded. I believe that it doesn't quite meet the standard that it should, and there's a lot of opportunity to deal with that in what's been put on the board in this motion. The open space, I was worried about parking, and the parking in the cul-de-sac I just think is very poor planning that have come before us, and I just always have these problems with the planning scheme that allows there's so much discretion here to make it work. I don't think it should have been recommended to us. It sort of perceives things like, you know, these are old people so they won't need visitors, right? Which is just a nonsense, because older people enjoy visitors and they're very good for the well-being of people. So there's all these assumptions being built into this this approval option, which I think is very bad. I don't know who's going to stand on the gate or who's going to allow people to live there over 55. There's somebody sneak in at 49. I don't know. Somebody sneak in who've got 3 children, and then you throw them out in the street. I mean,
I think we stick to the relevant.
I think there's some issues in that point as well. So this may give us an opportunity to work it through. The water is, of course, a major issue in this area, and maybe other councillors have put some of the arguments up that may find some solutions for them with detention basins further up. That may help, but somebody's got to pay for that. So as we develop areas, the rest of the ratepayers are going to pay for that while somebody else gets the development up. So let's hope that we can work something out with this deferral for a month.
Councillor Brooks, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, I'd just like to sum up by saying that this...
Excuse me,
sorry. I think people are confused about what's happening.
This is to refuse the application. Yes. Councillor Brooks, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah. So this is more than just about stormwater and parking. As you can see in that refusal, there's a long range of stuff that needs addressing. So, in my opinion, a deferment will not cover all those things, but the refusal, then they can go back and then we can rehash everything else if the development comes back. I know we do need this type of development, and it's a really good development, but in the right place and not at the detriment of the residents that are already there. You know, we've seen and we've heard from a lot of residents here tonight that they're passionate about where they live. They don't want to have parking restrictions with cars coming and going, not being able to back a trailer into their yard because there's no room to do that. You know, what good residential development puts all that into jeopardy? And I feel that if we let this go, this development happen, we'll have constant problems there. And in my opinion, refusal is the only answer. unfortunately.
Okay, all discussions happened.
I have a question. If we refuse it, it's got a 2-year period before it can come back, is that correct?
No.
Oh, no.
It can go straight to TASCAD if we refuse
Well,
it.
they can go straight to CASCAP.
To clarify, if you refuse the application and it gets appealed, it will go to the tribunal. If the tribunal support you in your refusal and uphold that decision, then a same or similar proposal cannot be put forward for 2 years.
If we lose, we
Bring it
lose
on.
everything.
Bring it on.
It's okay.
All right, I'm going to put that recommendation, excuse
Just wanna
me,
clarify-
excuse
just wanna
me.
clarify something.
You've already clarified things, I beg your pardon.
Do you want to clarify?
I'm going to be putting the recommendation. This is to refuse. All those in favour of refusal, put your hands up, please. Councillor Terrett, Councillor Adams and Councillor Brooks. All those against the refusal, put your hands up, please. Councillor McCullough, Councillor Goss, Councillor Andrews, Councillor Archer and myself. That motion's lost. Now there's a foreshadowed motion
I would
to...
like, on the back of what Councillor Brooks has said, I'd like to change it to 60 days because I think if all those matters have been raised, and there's things I think we would like to
So
change.
this is a foreshadowed motion and the councillor is recommending for 60 days.
Can you tell me who was against that refusal, please?
Here we go. Ms Brickdale's got the...
Okay. Against.
Did you?
Not yet, wait a minute, we haven't got there yet. And there's one more, isn't there? It should be 5. 5. Yes, yes. Okay, now we've got a foreshadowed motion which you need to put forward, because that was a lost motion.
Are we seeking extension from the applicant for a period of 60 days to consider amendments to the proposed development in working closely with the council, and that the applicant is more than welcome to attend a workshop with councillors to discuss aspects of concern.
It's 60 days in the new proposal, foreshadowed motion, up the top in that first sentence.
So the
Yes.
to be quite clear on what the rights of the applicant are.
Yes.
So council is fully aware of the applicant's rights.
So with this decision, with 60 days, if that was granted, there is nothing that we can statutorily do within that 60 days to require the applicant to provide any additional information. That vote has passed. That passes within the first 21 days of receiving an application. So if that was granted and supported by the applicant, which is their right to refuse completely, unless they volunteered information, it's just a 60-day, moving this decision 60 days with the same information. In terms of this, if the decision is passed, or the motion is passed and supported, and that is the decision made, council officers' actions would then be to request in writing of the applicant, MC planners, for that extension. Should that be refused, the decision is deemed essentially approved if the applicant goes to the tribunal and seeks determination. The tribunal has the right then to accept the application as being essentially approved or deemed approved, and the applicant can request conditions from there. Deferring the decision in this situation, considering the concerns you have, I don't think provides you the headway to get the information you're after in the 60 days.
So if you wish to go ahead with your foreshadowed motion, I need a seconder.
Well, then, so to me, I would encourage everybody to work together to get an outcome.
The other
because-
motion was better, in
But,
hindsight.
excuse me, councillor Brooks, that was lost.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah, it's all right, it's finished.
Oh,
So
yes,
you
I'd like-
are withdrawing the foreshadowed?
Withdrawing the foreshadowed motion because I think.
You're not, so
No, I'm not.
we need a seconder then. The foreshadowed. That council, oh, hang on. Yeah, it's a foreshadowed motion that council defers the decision for another 60 days for the applicant to seek further reports on retention and stormwater. We'd be
Sorry,
stormwater.
we've just got to talk, we're going to bring it back to 40 days. No, there's a reason for that, we're just
Oh,
trying to
okay.
encourage
Yes, fine.
everybody to work together, so.
It'll be stormwater detention and you better have your motion how you want it. The council-
defer a decision for another 40 days for the applicant to seek further, for the council to seek further reports
or
and
the
information if subject to the willingness of the applicant. For stormwater, traffic, and other matters raised, traffic/parking. And other matters raised in the council meeting.
No, you have to be specific.
Just stop it.
Just stop it there. Okay, so now I need a seconder, if that's a foreshadow motion. Councillor Goss, you're seconding? Okay, Councillor McCullum.
Yeah, I think that, I think there's a lot of willingness to want this project to go ahead, but I think it's a little bit overdeveloped in parts, and it's putting a lot of pressure on roadways, putting a lot of pressure on stormwater. It's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of aspects of life that it's actually designed, supposedly trying to take away, e.g. you're putting an area for over 55s, but you're not providing...
One thing I need to say though is please don't go over what we've already said. You can make your points. Make your points.
I haven't spoken tonight.
All right, keep going.
So, to me, it's actually almost defeating the purpose of what's been there. I just think it's a little bit of overdevelopment. I think that with a lot of work between council and the developers, that we could probably get this across the line in a cordial fashion to the willingness and happiness of all parties, including the neighbours.
Councillor Goss.
Just that if we can work with the applicant to get a good solution, I think that's a better way forward than going to the appeals tribunal, where we've had evidence from our officer that it does meet the guidelines. So I think this is the best way for us to, if we can get some support from the applicant, that'd be really fantastic.
You do realise this can go to the tribunal?
That's fine.
Yes. Right. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Archer.
Yes, well, obviously I'd just like to say to the applicant and all the people, you can see we've all put a lot of thought into this, and I still feel a little bit rushed by it, knowing that the applicant was prepared to do something with detention. That should have been done already. I do have some concerns, as I said, about access through Affleck Court for this larger area. I don't think when Affleck Court was designed, it was meant to have people further away coming through. That should have been a small development, perhaps as Unit 1, Unit 2 is there now. So there are some issues. The last thing I want to do is go through the appeals tribunal. I agree with Councillor McCullough that there are solutions here for everyone. Not everyone's going to be absolutely happy, but there are solutions. We just need to work cooperatively together to find those without going to lawyers and without losing the development. Maybe the development, as I said, it's got to change. I saw someone shake their head. Everyone gives a little bit. Hopefully, we might get some of this through, but at this stage, I have to support the deferment.
Councillor Brooks.
I couldn't support it for the simple reason is that there's so much work to do in a short space of time. Just because you refuse an application doesn't always necessarily mean they're going to take it to the tribunal. And with all those things listed, I'd say bring it on if you want to take it to the tribunal, but they can still oppose this, the applicant, can't they, Planner? Can they oppose this recommendation here, this deferred motion?
It won't be that they object to the motion or anything like that. They can't take this decision, but they can refuse to grant the request that you've asked, which is within their right. And that, in refusing to grant it, would then open it up to the decision not being made within the statutory timeframes as by the planning authority, which would then give appeal rights to the applicant with the tribunal for failure to make a decision or to determine an application subject to the Act.
And how does that play out though? Like failure to make a decision. So can you just broaden it with the answer, like what's the go there?
So as per section 59 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act, if a planning authority fails to determine an application before the expiration of a relevant period, basically before the time that they've already granted approval for, I've lost my place. If further periods, blah, 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 blah. Oh, sorry. If the planning authority fails to determine an application before the expiration of the relevant period, the applicant may apply to the appeal tribunal for an order determining the conditions on which a permit is granted. So basically, if you ask for I'll be quite frank, if you ask for additional time of the applicant and they refuse, all they need to do is to lodge with the tribunal a request to determine the application. And basically it's pretty much deemed approval that.
We may as well rubber stamp it now.
No, let's add to that then.
Now, before you
Sorry.
speak, councillor McCullough, because you moved it, we're better off having the discussion first and you sum up.
Okay.
Councillor Adams.
I was going to change, I was going to actually add to the
Just a
motion.
minute, we can do that. Well, we're best off tonight to oppose this and reject it. Because what we've just heard, if we don't like it, and most of us don't like it, we think that it's overdone. There's stormwater issues, which I'm not comfortable with. There's parking issues, whatever. No one's against the development and trying to get it there, but there's too many issues here, which has been plugged in and given a tick by the planning department, and we're now dealing with that.
Scheme, not the planning department.
So we need to get the approval is there, Mayor. What I said is what I meant. And the issue is we need to oppose it, because if we just ask for it, they'll take it to the tribunal and get it ticked. So, and we know how the tribunal has been answering these issues. So I believe we need to oppose it tonight.
Councillor Terrett.
Yeah, I hear what Councillor McCulloch is saying. However, we do have a statutory requirement. I'm so pleased the planner actually has highlighted this, because the downside is this, is if the TASCAT grants approval on the basis, our conditions, there are no conditions attached to this. And as we've seen in a recent case, an approval granted by the Commission with no conditions. And it's quite extensive, our conditions, which are have been recommended by the planner. I think it's a dangerous situation, and we are left at the fate of what the TASCAT, if the applicant wishes to go down that, hopefully not. But I think there is only one way that we should go this time, is to reject the application again.
Councillor Andrews, you're the only one that hasn't spoken. But you don't have to speak.
I'm caught there between a rock and a hard place actually, because I'm very conscious that this application comes with the backing of the Anglican Church and it's on their land, and therefore the development probably can't go anywhere else at Perth other than on this land. But I'm also very concerned, like everybody else around the table, basically about stormwater. And it's a problem that has needed to be addressed at Perth for a long time, with the development up around the Gibbet Hill area and that part of Perth. And this application for this development just highlights that. And so I can't agree to this development without those stormwater matters being addressed. So my idea and Councillor McCullough's idea was to try and create a bit of space so that we could go back and look at those with the agreement of the developer. So.
You finished, Councillor Andrews? Councillor McCullough, do you wish to sum up?
I want to ask another question. So when does the extension of time finish?
I believe it was today, but let me double check.
Which is possibly something we learn from in future.
Today, sorry.
That's when the time frame runs out, is the
Yeah.
question.
Typically, when we make a request, we request it for either the day of the council meeting or sometimes for the end of the week, just in terms of doing the minutes, but I will just double check for you. Friday, the 25th of July.
Okay, so can I add to the bottom of that, to my motion? And if the applicant does not agree by Thursday, 5 p.m. of the 20 whatever, then the application is deemed refused.
That's completely changing the,
No, it's not.
that's, isn't it? You're deferring it in 1 minute.
I'm
And now,
deferring
and
it.
now, yes, we've had all the discussion
Yeah, but
and now you're
that's
changing it
That's
significantly.
still fine, because what I'm trying to say is, we're really encouraging the applicant to work with us, but if we can't put ourselves in a position where we get rubber stamped on conditions, so we've actually got to take precautions to fix that. So we're trying to put an olive branch out there. If we don't get the olive branch out there and it's refused, then why should we?
And I'm suggesting to you, you've actually changed your motion completely.
But I think, Madam Mayor, I
Excuse
think.
me, one at a time, please. You've changed it completely. You've started from defer. Now, if the defer can't happen, you're now going to refuse.
Well, that's good.
Totally. Based on the discussion around the table.
Okay, mover and seconder, if we both agree. All right, mover and seconder, do you agree with that, councillor Goss? That's, I'll read this out. Now, this is what you're voting on. Sorry?
The conditions of the previous motion, or?
Yes. Yes.
A refusal with the previous motion's conditions, is that's been, right? Okay.
If it gets approved.
Okay, that gets it in. All right, I'm going to read this out now. This is what you're voting on. The council defer a decision for another 40 days for the council to seek further reports subject to the willingness of the applicant for stormwater, traffic, parking and other matters raised. If the applicant does not agree by 5 p.m. on the Thursday, the 24th of July, then refusal with the previous conditions. Can we say that sort of thing? That's threatening.
It's sounding inappropriate to me.
That's sounding very threatening to
It's
me.
threatening, it's just factual.
No, it's inappropriate. We need to have
You can word it as you like, but the intent is.
Deferring the decision, but then making
And
the
then-
decision in the deferral, is that?
That's right. They're contrary to each other. You're deferring it 1 minute, then if it's not approved, if the deferral's not agreed upon, you're
Well,
refusing.
that's only because of the constraints from put before us on the.
Well,
on
it
the-
may be so, but
So-
under
so
the
if
under
there's
the planning
rules,
scheme,
we've got to
you
play by
need
the
to follow the rules.
We are following the rules, and let's follow the rules.
Please stop arguing.
I'm not arguing, I'm putting my point forward. My God.
Can someone give us some advice on that? Is it a legitimate motion or not?
You're saying one thing, then you're saying the completely opposite at the end. And you've already considered the matter where you wish to refuse it, and that was lost.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
true.
but we weren't given that information from the planning officer
Yes, we
until
were,
after that.
right from
No,
the
we
start.
weren't. It was
You've
given
already
after-
gone through, yes, exactly right. You've already gone through a decision where you were going to refuse
Anyway,
it.
I maintain my position because I think that we're trying to encourage everybody working together, but why should council be prejudiced against if we're trying to offer an olive branch? Other than that, we refuse it and the developers don't feel advanced anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
Madam Mayor, we went to abide by the planning scheme, and the officer will tell you exactly what that process is, and I think we all need to be reminded.
If, just as a point of clarification in terms of the potential appeal rights, which is what I'm looking at here, you're saying you're deferring a decision for 40 days, meaning you're not going to make one for 40 days, except if it's not made. I would suggest that if you are deferring a decision, you defer the decision to the date that you will then make the decision. In the sense that if you're saying that you have until Thursday, the 24th of July.
No, we're asking the applicant to agree by Thursday and then we extend it by 40 days. Is that almost, I've not informed, is that what I'm not saying?
I think we need to take the officer's advice, particularly under the independent advisors' advice, that we need to be listening to our plan, to our officers.
All of a sudden, we're taking his advice.
Excuse me, we'll stop being disrespectful. Okay, it's over to the planner. Yeah, no, it's all right.
So what I'm trying
The suggestion is that if you're deferring for 40 days, but you're only giving the applicant till Thursday to make a decision, you're not giving them the 40 days.
No, if they don't want to agree to for the extension, then we'll deem it refused straight away. Otherwise, we refuse tonight, then no further advance.
I should be putting this motion. Councillor Archer.
Could I suggest that the first part is we subject to further reports and that the council will make a decision at a future meeting. I mean, that's basically what we need to do. If we don't get any more information or reports in a certain time, we will have to vote on it at that meeting.
So you need to take out B because it's
Hang on,
contrary.
I've just to explain to Councillor Archer that
I don't think we need to go through all this explaining, please.
it's a very important decision because there's people affected by this decision. So there's an extension being given on time, and if the time by default,
Can we listen to
they
the
can go
General
to
Manager,
TASCAT
please?
and get a decision without us.
Whatever the thing is, they're going to go to TASCAT if they want to,
That's
whether we refuse
correct.
it or whether
But
we
if we
refuse.
refuse,
All right, everybody, that's enough. We'll listen to the General Manager.
Can also be quite clear with regards, again, of the right of the applicants. The applicants can actually, my understanding is they can go and seek the final approval from the tribunal, or if you make a decision to refuse, they can go to the tribunal anyway.
That's
And
correct.
with regards to what's there, I would be going to the tribunal. You know, end of the day. That's, you know.
that's fine.
If a decision isn't made by Friday the 25th of July, it is essentially within the right of the applicant to approach the tribunal and ask for conditions.
And I'd just like to mention that the second part of that is completely inappropriate.
Okay, can I put it a different way? That the matter is, how do you word it so that you say it's refused unless an extension is granted? I'm asking you, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, we've already gone through the roundtable of refusing it, and we've rejected that.
We had a vote.
We had a vote on that. So really, all you can put is your part A, that the decision is deferred for another 40 days to seek further reports. Drop your B and you've got a motion that's appropriate. All right, I'm going to put that recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, can you put your hands up, please? I'm against. A deferral. You can't abstain, that's against. Right, so it's myself, councillor Terrett and councillor Brooks. So that actually is a moved motion. That's a moved motion, and that's where we ended. No, you don't put a statement. Anyone who just
You didn't vote on that.
Can we clarify what the decision was then?
To defer it for, to request that we ask you for 40 days.
Should have been put as a motion.
You supported the amendment, that motion there.
Okay, now we're on to,
6.
You've just supported it, supported the rubber standard.
Not necessarily.
we're up to planning 6. Good night. 20 Union Street, Longford, the ambulance station. The recommendation is planning 250055 to develop and use the land at 20 Union Street, Longford, including works within the road reservations for emergency services, ambulance station to be approved subject to conditions. You have a movement, councillor Terrett, you're moving that? And councillor Adams is seconding. Councillor Terrett.
Yeah, once I've got concerns about ambulances running in and out and in residential areas. Generally, we have that already with the ambulance sit right next door. This is a new facility. I think it's great. We've got getting a new facility for Longford. We should take on board that, and as a council, we should welcome this.
Councillor Adams.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great improvement for Longford and bringing a full-time station. So I think it's a plus, a big plus.
Councillor Andrews.
I'll be supporting this motion, but I'm disappointed that Tas Ambulance didn't go ahead with the original plan to be part of the new police headquarters at the top end of town. And then I wouldn't have had the concerns, even though I'm going to vote for this, I wouldn't have had the concerns about this site being flood prone, and it's too large a site, and what will happen to the rest of the site. But here we are, so I'll support it.
Councillor Goss.
Just when you go past the ambulance station out here and they've got power cords out the windows plugging into the ambulance, it says that we need a new station, a new complex. So I think this is something we need had for quite a while. We've been working out of here under sufferance for quite a long time, and I do think it's something that the officers need next door, and it'll be much better for everybody concerned. Thank you.
Councillor Archer.
Look, I agree with what Councillor Andrews has said, and while we still have this issue over the flooding and the 1 in 200 flood levels and things like that, and reports that our levy's not high enough, I think state government are taking a risk by putting it there. I prefer to have it somewhere else. I also believe that an ambulance station ideally would access straight onto a main road rather than using a side street. So I agree. I think there hasn't been a lot of planning here. And of course, we are only 15 minutes from Launceston. Maybe being out the other side of Longford was another couple of kilometres, but it's not a great problem, and I think we'll be coming back to revisit this at some point on the next major flood we get, because it could be inundated.
Any further discussion? Councillor
Yeah,
McCullough.
I support it. Ageing population with more requirements for essential health matters, and this is a good thing for the town.
No further discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. We have a mover and a seconder to move out of planning, please. Councillor Adams and Councillor McCullough. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We're going to now break for our meal break, so we have to say good night to everybody.